So, on today's podcast, we're talking about the obstacles that get in the way of effective communication and what mindset and habit shifts help us improve communication, enhance culture, and strengthen performance. Welcome back to the Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced the best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back, breathe in good oxygen, and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. Hey everyone, it's Jason, and welcome back to the Thermostat Podcast, wherever you are and however you're coming to the podcast today. Welcome in. So glad you are here. We have reached the over 300 episode mark in our history on this podcast, which is amazing. We're in season 9, which means, again, we've had a whole lot of episodes. So if you're new to the podcast, welcome in. So glad you're here. So glad you found us. So glad somebody recommended this. If you just Google my name, Jason Barger, topics that are interesting to you around culture, leadership, mission, vision, communication, trust, accountability, whatever it is, emotional intelligence, whatever it is, chances are you're going to find something in those 300 episodes that resonates with you. If you are one of the OGs that have been with us from the very beginning, then you know, hey, there's probably some that you missed. So I invite you to go back and check those out as well. I also will just say that we've had a lot of amazing thought leaders and friends and people from around the world join me on this podcast. So check out the interviews, the chats that I've had with folks. So much great stuff. Hope you'll continue to check it out and show up. My commitment to you, as always, every time I record one of these podcasts, is I want this to be a place for you to take a step back, to be able to have some good oxygen breathed into you, and then also to have some time to think about the temperature that you're trying to set in your life and your work. That's the point of this. Hope it fills you with some good thoughts, gives you some ideas, and I'm glad you're here. If you'll do me the quick favor before we start today's podcast, if you'll rate the podcast 5 stars on your, whatever platform you're on, leave an authentic review in your own words. Why are these messages relevant in a very noisy world? Obviously, if you haven't subscribed, please do that. And then if it's authentic for you, share it. Share episodes, topics that are meaningful, that resonate with you. Share them with, your colleagues at work. Hey, let's listen to this. And then let's talk about what it means for us. Share it on social media. Whatever's authentic for you, those are all the ways in which it helps amplify these messages. And I'm so grateful for everybody that takes a moment to do that. Thank you. George Bernard Shaw once famously said, "The single biggest problem with communication is the illusion it has taken place." The single biggest problem with communication is the illusion it has taken place. I love that quote. The way I interpret it, that quote, when talking about effective communication and culture shaping across teams and organizations, is that we humans often get stuck in our own heads. We run around most days playing with ideas in our own heads, things that are kind of racing around in the back of our heads. Studies have shown that humans have anywhere between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts in an average day. I'll let you decide where you fall in that spectrum, closer to the 12,000 or 60,000 thoughts. But we have all these thoughts running around our heads in an average day. Studies also show that 80% of those thoughts tend to lean negatively, and 95% of them are repetitive. So we carry the same stories around in our own heads, things that we're capable of, things that we're not capable of, stories we make up about ourselves or we make up about other people, our own worries about things that are coming up along our path. We carry these things, these ideas around in our own heads, but then often feel like we've communicated them with the people around us, but the reality is they've just lived in our own heads. And as you remember us talking about as it relates to emotional intelligence, Oftentimes, it's being able to be aware of these narratives that we're playing in our head and then being able to shift the narrative. And also, we need to be able to effectively communicate what's true and what the real message is. But we have these things kind of running around in our own heads. So the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that we've actually communicated a message. Recent studies reported by Pumbl state that 86% of employees and executives cite the lack of effective communication and collaboration as the main cause of workplace failures. 86% of workplace failures, they say, come down to an ineffective communication and collaboration between people. So the opposite of that is also true. Teams who do effectively communicate, the ones that do some of the things we're going to talk about on this pod, research shows their productivity rises by as much as 25%. Pumbl also reports that 63% of employees believe that wasted time is one of the worst consequences of poor communication. When messages aren't clear, we waste time and chase narratives and stories and things that lead us down paths that could be cleaned up because of more effective communication. So, couple those stats with what I've shared recently on other episodes about employee engagement reaching a 10-year low recently, and the business case that we made for well-being within organizations, where Gallup has recently estimated that $322 billion are lost in organizations every year due to employee turnover, lost productivity, and just employee burnout. So it turns out that how we communicate and approach our jobs actually leads to higher performance levels. So all of these signs point to an enormous opportunity, and I would say necessity within all of our individual relationships, let alone teams and organizations. But the opportunity and the necessity is to intentionally shape team and organizational cultures that not only bring out the best in people, but cultures that help model, teach, show people how we communicate, and the cultures we create lead to better performance and a performance and a culture that we hope for. So on today's podcast, we're talking about the obstacles that get in the way of effective communication and what mindset and habit shifts help us improve communication, enhance culture, and strengthen performance. But before we dive deeper, let's pause, take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Hey everyone, I want to take a quick minute just to remind you about one of my favorite days of the year that is coming up on Friday, November 7th, 2025, for Thermostat Cultures Live. This is a powerful day of development that I host and an opportunity for us all to step back, take a deep breath, and calibrate our thermostats for the road ahead in our own leadership roles, our lives, and certainly with the cultures that we are creating. This year, it's a hybrid event, and there are limited seats available for the in-person VIP experience in Columbus, Ohio. That's right, it's a really cool in-person VIP experience in Columbus, Ohio, as well as there are online virtual seats available for those who want to engage from a remote location. As always, I'll be joined by amazing thought leaders from around the globe, and it'll be a day you won't want to miss. Friday, November 7th, 2025. So visit thermostatcultureslive.com, thermostatcultureslive.com to learn more and to reserve your seat or seats for your entire team. In every relationship, team, and organizational culture, we don't want there to be the illusion of effective communication. We want it to be clear. We want it to be compelling. We want it to be actionable. When there is a lack of communication or there's fogginess about the message that, are being delivered between people, these are some of the obstacles or symptoms that start to show up. And so you may start to you might be able to point out these or acknowledge these within the teams and cultures and systems that you're around. These symptoms start to show up. Scatteredness, a lack of clarity with messages, expectations, goals, and handoffs between projects or people of who is doing what it leads to this kind of scattered behavior and inconsistent actions, this scattered feeling when things aren't communicated well. It also leads to finger pointing. When communication isn't clear, humans can fill the void with blame or defensiveness rather than a mindset and a search for solutions. They're quick to kind of point the finger and try to identify where the blame is rather than finding the solutions. And oftentimes it's because things haven't been clear and communicated well in the first place. And the third symptom or obstacles that we end up facing in cultures or relationships with ineffective communication is wasted fuel. Wasted fuel. When things are foggy out the windshield, humans spend a lot of wasted fuel and energy on speculating, trying to read into messages, and gossiping about things rather than focused on the task at hand. Each of these elements are examples of symptoms of ineffective communication, this kind of scatteredness, this finger pointing, and this wasted fuel. And as we know, in cultures, we talk about this all the time on this podcast, that cultures are dynamic, which means they're always changing. And they're shaped by the way we think, act, and interact. And so if we have a culture of ineffective communication that is perpetuating this kind of scatteredness and finger-pointed and wasted fuel, then every day we are anchoring that by the way we show up. And so, again, reminding us that culture is dynamic and it's shaped by the way we think, act, and interact. So if we want it to be different, then we need to start thinking, acting, and interacting differently. So the culture is shaped by how we first think and how we communicate those thoughts. How do we think about what our mission is and what we're trying to accomplish? Who are we hoping to be? How I think about what it means to be a father will impact how I show up to those relationships. It starts in my mind. Then from that thinking, the culture is shaped by whether our actions, our individual actions, back up that thinking or give people a different experience. And, lastly, every little interaction with those around us is either shaping the future culture that we say we want or is counter to what we say we want. So culture is dynamic and is shaped moment by moment by the way everyone in the cultural ecosystem thinks, acts, and interacts. And on a recent episode, we focused on shifting our minds from that kind of thermometer thinking, that reactionary thinking, to that thermostat thinking, that proactive thinking, which means every moment of every day aiming to be more intentional about how we do what we do and how we communicate those messages. So as we look at the recent studies related to ineffective communication that I named at the beginning of this podcast, we know the opportunity to create cultures that are different than that is massive. And again, if you're someone who needs the kind of return on investment or the business case for this stuff we're talking about, we also know that organizations with a higher engagement level report upwards of 22% higher productivity and performance metrics. So, not to mention, earlier you heard me name that when in organizations and teams that do have more effective communication, their productivity goes up by as much as 25%. So there's an actual upside ROI business case for all this stuff as well, of course. So I shared some of the obstacles and symptoms that show up with ineffective communication, but here are 4 positive elements that research shows that rise to the surface when leaders, teams, and organizations are practicing effective communication. Which again, I want to make sure we're clear on this, doesn't mean it's perfect. No person, no leader, no team is perfect. But those that are more practiced and they honor this, it's important to them, and they continue to practice this and get better at more effective communication, these are the things that we notice in research and studies. 1, performance. Productivity and other performance metrics go up because expectations, goals, handoffs, collaborations are more clear, and performance follows. Less time is wasted on ambiguity, and more time is spent on delivering results. It's really pretty simple. The other thing we notice is beyond performance is connection. Greater levels of engagement between team members happens when communication is flowing in positive, clear, and effective ways. People see communication as an opportunity to engage with the people around them. So connection between people and engagement goes up. The other thing we see is longevity. In the cultures that raise their level of effective communication across their teams, they retain more great people. Employees tend to stay and have longer longevity due to being a part of a culture that doesn't fall into as many traps around negativity, gossip, blame, and wasted scatteredness. And lastly, what we also see in study and research is trust. Studies continue to remind us that trust is built moment by moment every day by how we communicate and engage with the people around us. Trust levels go up when we back up what we say with action and have the courageous conversations we need when our team members, when things don't hit our standards. Trust actually goes up when things are clear and communicated well, even if it's around flaws or missteps or problems. Trust actually goes up when they are communicated clearly and well. So, performance, connection, longevity, and trust all show up in the studies of these teams and organizations that more effectively communicate their messages each day. Culture shaping, as we know, matters more than ever within organizations today. And fortunately, more relationships, teams, and organizations are realizing that it won't just magically happen. It's going to have to be led and co-created by everybody, which means you have to commit to the journey of culture shaping. I talk about the 6A process of leading change and shaping culture in my book, Thermostat Cultures. And I've certainly done whole episodes around this idea of the 6 A's of leading change. Culture shaping isn't a drive-through experience. And the best teams commit to coming back together over the long haul to continue to align, clear up the vision, develop their thinking, acting, and interacting, calibrate their own thermostats, and then it is amazing how intentional the culture feels and the results follow. The temperature they are setting didn't just happen by accident. It was led and co-created by all. So, as always, I'll leave you with a few questions to ponder after today's episode. In what ways could you or the important relationships or teams in your life and work better communicate? Where do you spend wasted fuel, guessing, and where could you be more clear with expectations and goals? What is your cadence and modes of communication that are working or that are getting in your way? Cheers to you. Cheers to all of us on the path ahead. I hope today's episode resonated with you and got you thinking in some cool ways. Hopefully, the single biggest problem with communication is not the illusion it has taken place. If you have any thoughts, feedback, ideas, or if we can help support you in your team and the development of your people, your culture, your clarity, I hope you'll contact us. Reach out, jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com, or you can email us info@jasonvbarger.com. Again, thanks to everybody out there who rates the podcast, reviews the podcast in your own words, shares the podcast, subscribes, all those great things, and helps amplify these messages. And lastly, I'll remind us to step back, remember, be a thermostat, and breathe good oxygen. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to you and your organization, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we are all ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of, The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.